with him is David Thompson in the back. He's managing the project for his consultant group. So what we want to do now is, now that you've seen the presentation, you know what the project is about. I know you have questions. So feel free to just raise your hand and we'll call you out and have you ask a question. We'll provide a response as best we can. And then after that, we'll break. We'll do this for about 5-10 minutes or so. And then we'll break and you can go back and look at the boards and ask anyone any other questions that you may have. So who'd like to go first? Yes, sir.
Just want to understand the timeline again. 2024 is when you're anticipating completing the design work,
Correct.
and then you'll go put it out to bid.
That's correct.
And
Yes, sir.
then it's 27 months from then.
That is right.
It's gonna take 27 months to build, to do this, by my house, right there.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
No, it's not okay.
Okay.
No.
Well,
Who
we'll
has
have to.
Who has to approve it?
Well, we'll have to discuss that.
I guess so.
But
Because
we're
I had a
looking
hard
at-
time with the HOA already.
Okay, let me start off with one thing now. We're not gonna deal with hostility. We're here to put in a public improvement that is access to your community. So there is gonna be a little bit of pain as we go through this project, because it's construction of a bridge that's your sole access. We realize that, we understand that it is going to be difficult. And we're all gonna have to have some patience in order to get the project done. We're doing our best to design the project so that it has as small amount of impact on any homeowner as we possibly can. And with that, we are also looking at the traffic control that's gonna be needed to take care of that one-lane traffic and accessing all the streets off of the main drive, Madonna Boulevard. So as we do that, there will be periods where we'll have to detour traffic. So that's why when you see a board back here that has the signals, and it says that 6th and 4th will be closed, there will be a period of time when those will have to be closed for the contractor to access the work and for safe vehicle movement through the project area. So with that, we'll detour to 7th further to the west and to 3rd to the east. And that way you can go around the block basically. And there's really no other way to get around that. We're gonna limit that detour as much as we can. But just to let you know, that will probably have to occur at some point or another. Yes, sir.
Would there be restrictions on pedestrians or bike traffic on the temporary bridges? Or would that be open for people? A lot of people walk and
Right.
get bikes and stuff, so.
That will remain open. While traffic is on the existing bridge in phase 1, pedestrians can still use the sidewalk. Now in phase 2, when that new bridge is open for traffic, then pedestrians can walk on the new sidewalk.
If you don't
to
live
get
over
across.
this way, then nothing should matter. If you live over here, then it's fine. If you live over the side of the bridge,
Sir,
then that matters.
if you're gonna continue, I'll
No,
ask
I'm
you to
not gonna
leave.
continue.
Okay,
Because
good.
I bet you don't live on that side of the bridge.
No, I don't.
Exactly. Exactly.
All right, anyone else have a question? Yes, ma'am.
I was, you said 27 months between the final design, so if I got it correctly, so final design is June, spring, June 20, or so, 24, and it would be September 26, but you still have to go to the bidding process. How long does that take?
The bidding process takes a minimum of 6 months.
6
By the
months?
time we put the contract together, get that out on the street, and accept bids, go through the award process, and get to the notice to proceed date, that's usually about 6 months.
Okay,
Sometimes a
so
little bit
say
longer.
January 25, get it on the street, done.
Okay,
Okay, and then that would make it September of 27, 2022.
Okay.
Is that correct? It's not the time that you get the plans approved, it's the time you
For-
actually get the bid completed.
That is
and
correct.
awarded.
For
So it's
construction
27 months
itself.
sometime after the 1st of January.
Yes, ma'am.
25. Okay.
Yes, ma'am, exactly.
So it's gonna be longer, out of the way.
It is out of ways. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'm walking on that bridge all the time, and I'm just wondering, I think it's in good condition from what I could see. What would I see that would indicate to me that there's that there's a problem, that it needs to be replaced, because to me, it looks pretty good.
Right. And from the top, you're right, it does. When you look underneath, you'll see some problems on the beams. When you look at the piles, and if we could see down below the pile vents, pull up one of those slides of the bridge, the profile of it. Do you wanna talk about this from the inspection report, or you want me to?
So, the situation which you call a scour critical, we don't, so we don't know how deep the piles are embedded. So if any extreme event, it might be not safe.
Can't hear you.
Yeah, you can take it.
Okay, we're trying to pull up a slide here that will show it a little bit better and I can explain it. But when we refer to a bridge as scour critical, that means that the footing or the pile vents, the pilings below are being eroded. The soil around those is washing away. And also at the seawalls, when we have, in the situation that we have here we go. I'm gonna pass that to you, but I'm gonna try to help here. Can everyone hear me? Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna come over here so I can point. I'm gonna point it. So these are your seawalls as they are in the current condition right here. So when we look at this structure, the seawalls are into the channel quite a bit. When they designed this bridge, they were looking at trying to save money on the structure itself, so they made the bridge shorter and brought the seawalls into the channel. What we're trying to do is open that channel a little bit, because when you restrict that channel, it forces that water to really rush through that restricted area. So what you end up having is a lot of scour. Over on this particular corner here, if we look at the soundings that we had, the borings and the survey, you'll see that there's about a 30-foot depth till you get from the top of the water to the mud line.
Wow.
Down below the water line. So what's happening is basically that water rushes through this opening and it swirls. The other thing we've got is we have another set of sheet piling across the canal under the water and under the mud line. And that was put in years ago to try and reduce the amount of scour and reduce some of that flow that was going through that channel opening and taking away some of the earth matter below there. It didn't work real well, so we're gonna remove that, we're gonna widen the channel, and that will help to improve the flow through there and reduce the scour. Because what happens when we do, can you bring up the other slide with the profile? Well, what happens is you've got a pile vent in the middle that holds up part of the bridge, that's in the water. So if you were looking at the bottom of that pile vent, you would probably see the bottom of that. Here we go. So these are the pile vents existing in the water now. So what's happening is the water churns and it starts to erode some of that soil that's around those pile vents. This is what's holding up the bridge. So as time goes and more of that sand and earth matter gets churned up, loosened, and moved from the currents, then it exposes more of the foundation of the bridge. So it's not a problem right now, but it will be a problem in the future. So what we do is we look at things like this every year when we inspect bridges, and we determine what's wrong with that bridge. Does it need to be repaired? Does it need to be replaced? And through that evaluation process, we make that decision and we start designing either a repair or replacement. This one needs to be replaced. Now, in 2005, there was a repair made, but it was mostly to the deck. And I believe there were pile vents put on pile jackets put on the vents as well. So if you look at that, if you were to expose that, you would see how the pile vents over years had been corroded from the seawater, the salt water. And so a lot of that concrete was starting to chip off. Well, you'll see a little bit of that underneath the bridge on the beams that are there currently as well. So you take a look at the whole structure from below ground up to the bridge deck. And And it tells you what the condition of that bridge is in and whether it needs to be replaced. All the inspection reports and the studies we did to get to this point indicated it needed to be replaced for those reasons. Yes?
Yeah, so when you look at on Sixth Avenue and Fourth Avenue, where you're gonna put the temporary or the road closed, I guess I just wanna understand, is it gonna be something that's permanent enough that people can't sneak around? And the reason I ask that is because you're gonna put that light past that, before that. So I can easily see people trying to come down Sixth and sneak in that right, and they're not gonna know if there's oncoming traffic or not, because they're not gonna have any visibility to that light.
Right.
And God knows that traffic circle, when we put that in, people could not figure out not to go left. So, and there was
Hopefully they
700, there was
figured that out now.
700, well, now they got it, but there was 700 signs and notes about it, so I can easily see somebody trying to do it, and and maybe my question isn't gonna be popular, I'm gonna be probably most impacted by that, cause I'm one of those cross streets,
Okay.
but I don't want that to be easily accessible to get around.
Right, right.
Because you're gonna have a lot of, cause if there's a head-on problem there, a head-on collision, then we're dead on this side. We aren't going anywhere,
Right.
unless we have a boat.
No, you're exactly right. And so that whole detour plan, we have standards for the items that are placed for detours. And there is a type 3 barricade, excuse me, that would be placed at that intersection. We would have 2 of them at least.
You can't drive around them.
No, you can't. And you see them all over the place. It's basically steel posts that are on legs, and then you've got bars that go across it, wood bars, that have red and white stripes. That's a type 3 barricade. That's what will be put out here, and they'll be put across that roadway to close it off completely. Now, if there does become a problem with that, and people want to try and scoot around that, then we can change that, we can put Jersey barriers in there if we have to make sure that doesn't happen, just for the protection. Safety factor.
Wouldn't it be smarter to be proactive and put the
Yeah.
barriers in now?
I would just put the barriers in. All it's gonna take is one person.
Well, you're right. We don't do that because of what the standards call. And typically, we have good adherence to those type 3 barricades. If they're in there, people don't get out and move those around.
Yeah, I would hate to be I don't wanna be the person who's coming across to my house, and some idiot decides they're gonna cut that corner and doesn't see the light, because we didn't go past standards.
Right. Well, and the way this is shown, that light is not gonna be there. There's gonna be structures with the lights on them that it's very clear.
No, but I'm
in
saying,
terms
if
of
that
where you
light,
can go and
if that
see
light
it.
isn't on that side of Sixth,
Right.
if it's back, let me just point, cause you're a pointer, I'm a pointer.
So,
So,
you're talking about over here on this
yeah,
side.
yeah, if that light isn't there, right there, I'm not gonna see it if I cut this corner, cause if it's back here, I can't see it.
Right. Now, we have one of 2 things. Now, we will either have one structure here that will have lights for all legs, all 4 legs of the intersection, or we'll have multiple structures, one for each leg. That's something that the engineer is looking at now. But that whole design for the detour and the closure to one lane, all that will be engineered. And,
That's not gonna stop right on red. If you have 4 lights, that's not stopping right on red. Right, if I see a red light there, I'm gonna go right on red. I'm not gonna know somebody's coming across because of that. And don't tell me you're gonna put a sign that says no right on red, because they couldn't read don't go left. So they're gonna go right on red.
Well, and
Can
that's,
we just literally go up a standard and put a permanent barrier? That
Well,
solves every single problem.
and that is a good point, because we
Yeah.
don't even wanna make it right on red. So that lends more towards the need for the detour. To
Yeah.
close off those side streets. So that's something that the engineer will take back,
Yeah.
take a look at when they design that detour and that closure.
And I was gonna add to that too, because on the other side, what people are gonna do, the traffic's gonna get all backed up going towards 7-Eleven as they're sitting there waiting for that red light. And then the smart guys are gonna come back around, and then they're gonna hit 4th Avenue and try to make that right in front of everybody. So if there's permanent barriers on both sides there, so there's no right on reds, that'd be a good idea.
Good points. Good points.
A couple things. Number one, do you need to raise the bridge up 3 foot? Is that already baked into everything?
Yes, that is.
It is.
Whatever the actual distance is, that is factored into the design, because that's in accordance with our state standards. these
Okay.
days. And what we're trying to do is create a 12-foot separation between the bottom of the bridge and the high water level. So that any splash that comes up from any watercraft, jet skis, boats, whatever, does not get routinely onto the bottom of that concrete deck and start to run.
My second one is, the rendering that you have, this is a neighborhood bridge. It's an ugly bridge, what you got drawn up there. You can make it aesthetically more pleasing. It looks like a standard DOT bridge. You know, you could do something to it to make it look more attractive. Yes?
Well, make that comment.
It's ugly.
I don't think it'll be as ugly as you think when we get done, but I get your point. With the railings, they are
Yeah, do
standard
something
DOT
different with
railings.
railings, like on Bayshore Boulevard, those big old balustrades or something. Something different, those Jersey barriers with those aluminum rails on it, it's ugly. I gotta sit and look at it every day. So, you know.
I don't even know who they are.
And all I can say to that is there's standards we have to go by, but make that comment, and we'll see about the consideration for those. But anyway, you had something to add to this?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, in addition to, the benefits of staying out of that splash zone for corrosion purposes and whatever, there's also a benefit to be above the surge in a storm surge, so that.
Well, I understand that, I'm talking about the top of the bridge, the way you got your Jersey barrier with the railing on top of it.
Oh, he was talking strictly about the clearance.
Yeah, just
underneath.
about the, just. to add
It
to
is
the
what it is, there's enough boats that go up and down that canal, racing it up another 3 foot is gonna make it worse. So,
Yeah, that is true.
yeah.
I've got another question on the aesthetic part. So I heard during the presentation that there's going to be new landscaping, nice landscaping put in on both sides of the bridge. Was that correct? Did I hear that?
No, sir.
Okay.
That was the existing condition that it was describing. He was
Yeah.
talking about the landscape medians.
What I'd like to know is, on both sides of the bridge, right now, there's this zone that nobody maintains. The landscaping around it looks like crap, and I'm hoping that when you redo this bridge, after it's all said and done, that the landscaping around it is done nicely, around the sidewalks, new palm trees, all of that. But my main concern is who's going to maintain that on an ongoing basis? Because right now, it gets ignored.
Okay. First question first. I think are you referring to these little teardrop islands?
No, I'm referring
Or are you
to
talking about the sides?
on the sides, right,
Okay.
between the property line and the bridge, like
Okay.
that whole area.
A lot of that is gonna have to be taken out.
Yep.
Because of construction.
Sure.
It's just gonna get damaged, so that has to come out. There is no landscaping as a part of this project. So what will go back is sod. Once all of that is graded and smoothed out, then we'll put down sod.
Well, that
That's
goes
all.
back to that gentleman's point that it's gonna look like crap when it's done, because you're not gonna put any nice palm trees or any nice vegetation, and nobody's gonna come through and maintain it.
That's correct. And because of maintenance funds and because of the staff that we have, which is limited, and the amount of work that they're required to do to maintain roadways, we don't have the staff to do all that landscaping. And so when we look at that cost and the impact that it has on budgets, we don't landscape as a county.
So how did that happen around the whole traffic circle? You know, that improvement and all that niceties that were done there, right? The palm trees and the rocks and all.
That was the Florida Department of Transportation that did that, and they either maintain that or they have an agreement with the community.
Could we get them to do this bridge as well?
No, sir. Yes, sir, you had a question in the back.
Yeah, are these temporary lights, are they gonna be timed, or are they gonna be, censored?
They'll be timed, most likely, and that's actually a good question. We'll have to take a look at as we do the design, because closing off all 4 legs, they could have sensors, but most likely they'll be timed.